Everybody, welcome back. So today I'm going to get started putting this Singer vs2 beautifully painted machine back together. So let me go ahead and get my things out and get organized, and I'm thinking I'm going to get started up here in the nose. Actually, I was going to go ahead and put these pins on first, and I did, and remember I had to pound them out, but I just pushed them in. There was absolutely no resistance. So once the pins were clean, you know, I didn't stretch those open or anything. It just slides through. So that's a good thing, I think. That way, in case, you know, you don't have a cabinet, you don't have to destroy anything to take the pins off. So that is good. The other thing is I do need to pop a spool pin on top, but I'm going to hold off doing that until later because sometimes I have to flip her upside down, and I don't want to put that spool pin on there just yet. So let's get a good look in here. She is painted inside. I did not paint the little bearing holder, so that, you know, that should be the same size. Let me get her, what am I going to get out? Her presser bar first. No, not her presser bar. I'm going to do this thread take-up lever first. So I did previously clean all of these parts. They might need a little quick buff before I put them on, but if not, they won't. So I'm throwing oil into that slot there, all the way around, making sure that is good and up in those threads. Screw starter on here, and come on. This needs to travel like that, okay, with this bearing in that slot. To me, it's easier to put it in this way. Move my slot over to the side there and flip it upright and pop it in to where this is. So let me get this camera out of my way here. Okay, so it's in that groove. And I'm going to tighten this up, but I want to make sure that it's going to move freely. And it is, so all is well there. Okay. I'm going to actually put the little lifter lever in first down here because it goes in the back of everything. So let me go grab that. Okay, so this is curving down. And get the screw started into that hole. Okay, once it's started, come back and cinch it in. And this screw should have a shoulder on it, so even when the screw is fairly tight, the lifter lever can still move freely, which is a good thing. Okay, there we go. Okay, so in the spirit of all honesty here, when you last saw me, I was working on the presser bar, okay? Oopsie, hang on, I gotta turn off my other phone. Okay, I was trying to put the presser bar in, and terrible horror of horrors, I dropped it, and I chipped the paint. So this, you are seeing me a couple days later. I had to go through, do a wet sand, paint it, re-clear coat it and everything from this point forward. So it's done now, but I'm going to be extra special careful that I don't do that again. So that's why I have a microfiber cloth here now, okay? Because what had happened is I had just slipped out of my hand and dropped. And my paint is fresh enough. It won't be totally rock hard cured for like a month. Okay, it's very dry, but it won't be like you know, super, super hard for like a month. So anyway, that's what we've got. So I'm going to go ahead, put this little piece back in. I have this screw backed out. I'll tighten it later. Putting my presser bar down. The first thing that's going to go on here is the little washer. And then this spring. And then I'm going to feed it down through this little clamp here and through the hole in the bottom. I need to push that clamp out a bit. Okay. Alrighty, you know what? I'm going to put a little bit of oil on here, just so, because that's a very tight fit, just so it can get used to sliding up and down in there. I think that's pretty good. Okay, just so I can get an idea of where this needs to be, down here at the bottom, the flat part is going to be off to the side here. I'm just going to set this presser foot on there and push it down so that it's right about where it should end up, okay, with the lifter lever down. I don't have this plate on. This is close enough for right now. I'm going to move you out of the way and tighten up this little set screw again, to be, you know, fine-tune adjusted later, but that's going to hold it for now, so I can pull that off. And that's good. Okay, so now at the very top, this finial is going to go back on. It's very tight to pull it off in the beginning, but you know, we're doing good here. Lots of machines in the background, just ignore that for right now. And I'm going to twist this until I have about 3/8 of an inch of thread sticking out. That's good. That usually gives me enough spring to do what I need to do. Okay. I am going to leave the foot and the little thread cutter alone for right now and get started on the needle bar. So once again, I'm going to put that there so nothing bad will happen. And the first thing is I need to turn this. Oh my gosh, after all that, I put this on in the wrong order. Oh my gosh. Comedy of errors, you know? I don't think I can slide that in. Nope. All right. So you saw I know how to do this. I can't even tell you how many videos I have done this same mistake. I don't even know. I need to turn my brain back on or have another cup of coffee or something. So just ignore what I'm doing. When you're doing this at home, do the needle bar first, obviously. Thankfully, I can pull this out. And I might actually be able to fit this in behind it. Let's see. Put the little bearing on. Aha, look at that. It does fit on behind without having to take everything out. So that's great. Okay. Okay. You know what? I didn't turn my light on. Does that help? Does that make any difference? I hope so. All right, I'm going to get my needle bar. That side goes down. Slide it through here. Slide it through this hole up here. There it goes. And through the bottom. Okay. I cleaned it out really well, but it's a bit stiff, so I have oil up here, down here, and everything, and I'm just kind of working it back and forth so it'll smooth itself out. Looking at the needle bar, this part here, there's a hole, and if I turn it around, you can see it goes all the way through. I want to turn it so that down here I have this slot facing out and this hole up here. And I need to line up this hole with the center of this bracket. So I'm going to push it down till right there. Can you see that that is lining up? And I need to get the smaller screw. There's a couple small screws on the needle bar. There's this one, and there is this one with the little nipple at the end. That's for down below. This is the one I want. So let me get that in. Don't think I'm lined up yet. Okay. There it goes. Had to wiggle it. Okay, so now that is in. I'll cinch it in a second. I need to get this other screw, which is a bit bigger, and get it started, and it is going to go right here. It is a clamping kind of screw. Okay, let me switch this out to a smaller bit, and then I can get in here and get them tightened up. Let's tighten this guy up. Okay. All right. Okay, I want to show you, when I put that on, it was a bit stiff. There was something somewhere. I don't know what it was. So what I do, I put masking tape at the end here. And this is a 13/16 socket. Okay, so the masking tape's going to give it something to grab onto. I just kind of push it at the end, hold the machine, and it's going to run it until it works out whatever it is. You know, it might have been a bit of paint somewhere, a little burn, something somewhere. But that's going to work it out so that this is going to, you know, turn smoothly and everything. So just wanted to show that to you. So now that that's done, I'm going to put this spring back on. Put the washer back on. And twist this finial back down. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and try to pull the thread cutter up. Okay, that's pretty good. And go ahead and put, raise this up, this presser foot back on, and it's now shiny and pretty. Little knurled bolt. Okay, so there you go. This machine will work with a modern hinged foot. One of these guys. You know, if you ever wanted to use one of these, it works. Just a basic short shank machine. Yeah. So let me get this back in. And now for over here on the needle bar, down here in the back, there is a place up high for a screw to go, but I'm actually going to put the needle clamp on first. Raise this up. Now this little thread guide, okay, here's the little eyelet loop. This is its tiny screw with the little nipple thing at the end. That is going to go in right here, right above where that clamp, needle clamp is. I needed to put it on first. That's okay. Just untwist this a hair and drop the whole thing. Slide this on, and that little screw is going to go right there. Okay, so that is in, and she's doing great. If you watch on a shuttle machine, it's going to do a little bounce. So it goes down, bounce, and then up. Okay, down, bounce, and up. That's the way they roll. I am going to go ahead and flip her up on her nose and get the stitch link fork put in. Okay, So I'm kind of holding her with my arm up here because since she's round, she's not going to sit well. The way this works, the fork is out like this. The block is going to travel over that bearing, and in the back of the block there is a hole, which this is a washer, 3-prong washer that's going to be over on the outside of the machine, and then this is going to screw in there and hold it in place, okay? I have to do all of this inside the machine while I am holding it upright. And oh, I forgot, because this is a VS2, I can't do it from the bottom. It's got this big piece right here, so let me flip her back down. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so she is going in this way, and I need to make sure I have her little tail coming out the bottom of the machine. So you kind of have to turn it that way and then flip it, I guess. All right. Tricky. Okay, she is in there now. So let's throw some oil around that bearing inside that fork. And I'm just going to slide this over it for right now, and I need to get to her from the other side because this screws in from the other side. So I'm going to have to like kind of pull her a little bit off the table so I can get that from down there. So let me turn off the camera and then I'll show you how it goes. Okay, it's in there now, and this is very tight. So basically what you have to do is get the block, and I don't want to take it off again and show you, but the block, get the fork in, just hanging out where it needs to be, okay? The block, don't have it attached to the fork up here. You're going to have it so that you can kind of hold it upright with the little slot up here, and then working it in as you screw this, you know, adjuster screw up, you can work that little nub of the block underneath it. Once it's in, then you can kind of rotate it down and tip it over so it's riding on this bearing, okay? That is what is working for me. So now that all of that is there, what I need to do is come back over here on the outside, and so I get something pokey here. I need to make sure that that threaded area is lined up with that hole without totally hitting my camera. And then this, the prongs are going to go towards the casting of the machine. This goes over it, and that whole thing gets screwed in there to hold it in place. Okay, so now that is secure, and I can turn this, and it's working well, and you can see this is not really doing a whole lot down there. It still needs to get secured to the rock shaft that's going to go in, but it's turning well. So let me move this off the table. Not sure why I'm keeping the original needle. Don't remember. And if I flip her up here, we want to make sure this can still turn in easily. And it can. You know what? I'm going to put a little bit of oil on these threads, just because it is going straight up against cast iron. We want to make sure all those threads get really lubricated. So if I remember right, in all the way is longest stitch, out all the way is shortest stitch. I might be wrong. It might be the other way around. Okay, but yeah, that is turning really well. So I need to get her up on her back so I can start working underneath. But actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put her wheel back on now. I think that that's going to make my life easier. It's a lot easier to turn a wheel than it is just to turn a little nub. Okay, so I put some oil in there. Just going to slide this on. Spinning beautifully. Okay, let me go ahead and get the pieces that are going to go on the end here. Okay, so first Just going to go this washer. Oops, flip it over so the nubs slightly go down. And this screws in. And then there is a little screw with a tiny little nipple on the end. That goes in here. Oh yeah, I have to reach over myself. Still holding the machine. I love the look of these machines, but you have to hold on to them constantly. Now, as always, there's a 50-50 chance that I got that washer in right. Yay, I did. If you can only turn this like a quarter turn and then it stops, that's a good sign. So let me go ahead and get it tightened. So when I loosen it, I should be able to spin this, nothing happening there. When I tighten it, I should be able to, well, it's up against stuff. When I spin it, things are going to happen down there. So that means it's working. Okay, let me get this out of the way. And I'm going to put it over here on her backside, like that. Okay, so now we can get underneath. Okay, off camera, I put my medallion back on, and I put a little bit of clear epoxy into the little pinholes. You know, it's clear, you cannot see it, but that holds the pins really secure. So I just have that on, and I have it wrapped in the masking tape, but the sticky part is out. None of the sticky is next to the machine. So while she's laying on her back, that can be drying. I'll take that off later tonight. And this is done here. So let me go ahead. I think I'm going to get her rock shaft out first. That's going to connect to the bottom of the fork we just put in. Okay, so if you remember, this did not want to come off, and actually, before I start putting things on, I'm going to quickly flush around this. I did put oil on it a bit ago. Flush around it, make sure it's as clean as I can get before I start attaching more things to it. Thought I would try one more time to get it off, and it's coming loose now. Maybe all that time sitting with stuff in it was what it needed. So I'm going to take a brief intermission and go ahead and pull tiny little set screw. Pull that off. I should be able to untwist this, and look how gooey it is. I'm so glad that worked. I'm so glad. Okay, pull that off, and then this part should just slide off. Oh, good. This is making me very happy. Okay, so filthy. Let me get it all cleaned up. Okay, clean. Ready to get this back together. Before I put this back in the machine, I'm gonna put the little bobbin holder back on. So let me pop this on here. Figure out where I left my screwdriver. Well, I think it's on the back table. I'm just going to grab this real quick, just to get it started, if I can. Okay, so there is some adjustment space here. You can see if I loosen this, I can move it in and out. Okay, when you're setting it and you want to make sure that it travels lightly across there, you know, that's where you make this adjustment. So right now I'm just going to kind of put it on centered like that. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and get these little clamp screws started, but I'm going to throw a bunch of oil in here and in those little holes first. Okay, get that in there, this in here, and just barely get them started so that I can clamp them in once I have it slid into place. Okay, now popping this on here. Let's throw more oil on that little shaft there. Okay, moving great. Here's this little ring. More oil, you say? Yes. Put this on. See that blank space in the threads? That's where the little set screw is going to land. Okay. All right. Now, if you tighten this up way too tight, it's going to bind here. You don't want to do that. So, but you don't want this to set too low. If this sets too low, you won't sew right because your needle won't engage correctly. So just barely. This does not have any play, but it does move freely. That is what I want. So I'm going to get my little troublesome set screw and get it started right here, and then go grab my other screwdriver. It's a little screw. I can use this and get it in place. Okay, and making sure that is still moving very freely, and it is. Okay, good. Just another little cinch. Yay! I am so much happier with that. I cannot even tell you. That was bothering me. Okay, so now I have this little slot in here, which I'm going to throw more oil in. Why not? And this, the thread from my buffer in there, this bearing here is going to travel in that slot. Okay? So I'm setting it here. This shaft is going to line up with those two positions. Let me just get this, throw oil in there for that pivot point to go up against. Throw oil up there too, because why not? Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing down here. I don't think you can even see down there, trust me. Just put a bit of oil inside here. And turning in that pivot point so it's going to hold. All right. Traveling in that little slot pretty well. This part down here, we have this eccentric bolt. Is it? It is not an eccentric bolt. Heavens, and it's a bit dirty. Let me clean that little bit out. Okay, all clean now. I'm going to line up this hole here with this one here. Come on. All right, throw a little oil on there, because why not? And there is a little nut that's going to go over here on the end. Just realized I'm putting the wrong one in. It fits, but it's the wrong one. These are the bolts for my pitman arm, which is this piece here, which I'm going to move away. Okay, this one, which is still not eccentric, amazingly enough, is the one that's going to go over here. Okay, and this is its little 3/8 inch bolt. So get started here. And as soon as I feel it coming through, I'm going to throw this nut up here. Since it's not eccentric, you can't really make an adjustment, so it is what it is. Okay, so now that that is on, I'm going to get my little wrench. Okay. Now these, this screw right here, it's a little clamping screw. Tighten that up so it can feel accomplished. All right, see if I can turn the wheel. Okay, can you see? Everything's moving great. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Figure out where I put my little oil bottle, because I'm going to put another drop up here. Okay, so before I put the nuts onto my pivot points, I'm going to go ahead and get that little needle, round needle plate on up here so I can adjust where they're supposed to go. In order to do that, I have to get my feed dogs on. So here they are, nice and clean, and This part right here where the little slot cutout is, that's where they're gonna slide in, okay? And this screw is gonna come in. I may need to take this presser foot off, but this screw is gonna come in from the back and attach from out here. Okay, so I have them on. If you need to raise your feed dogs up, you just loosen this screw and push that little plate up. And I have them pretty high right now. To lower the feed dogs, you loosen the screw and just push them down and then retighten it. Pretty manual. So I'm just gonna get this screwed on here. Not just lightly, because I'm probably gonna have to take it off again soon. But I want this plate to be in place. Okay, so get my glasses down here. Looking at it, well, they actually look pretty centered. Hang on, I'm gonna move my chair in. Okay, I'm gonna lift her up here so we can see. I'm looking at the side to side position there. I want to make sure they are not rubbing on the side. And they are not. If anything, they're a little too far this way, over here. So what that means is coming back here, I can loosen this up a hair, pull this whole bar over that way, and see what it looks like. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now that that is there, and it looks good, looking good meaning those feed dogs are right in the middle of that slot. I'm going to go ahead and put a nut up here. If it will behave, maybe it wants to go this way. Come on. Well, anyway, I need to flip it around because it's not being nice to me. But holding this position, I'm going to go ahead and put the nut in on this side and the other side so that that bar will stay in the right position. And of course, since I unscrewed it over there, I had to tighten this one up just a hair. Again, you don't want it to bind, you know, so be mindful of that. Okay, that's just hand tight, making sure everything is still moving well. Great. Let me go ahead and get a wrench. Okay, so this is a 9/16 inch wrench. Stick it in there. I'm going to hold the screw in the position I want it to stay in and tighten this up. There. Don't know what I'm doing here. It keeps wanting to loosen on me. I'm going backwards. I'm going lefty-loosey. Heavens, heavens, heavens. Oh my goodness. No wonder, huh? Okay. There we go. Now that's tight. And again, after every little bolt, make sure it's still good. Is making sure this is still good. Okay, and then make it tightened up over here. Okay, let's do pitman arm, huh? Let's say you. See how there's more room? That there's flat here and then there's space up here. The one with the space goes up against the casting. All right, so I'm gonna pop this over there. And this is gonna line up with that hole on this piece. Okay, the big shouldered screw comes over here. Okay, get that tightened up, and then there's this flatter one. It's going to go over here. Those are tight. Still working great. And lay it back down and tighten up these little clamping screws down here. So there's one over here. Okay, and there's another one right here. Okay. Looking great. Alrighty. So again, if when I am troubleshooting things, I need to adjust where this bracket is, and I might do that, you never know, it is this screw here that I will get to, okay? If I move the bracket towards the front, I can get to that. But I think we're pretty much done underneath here. So I'm gonna go get a box so I can set her upright in it. All right, so I just have her kind of propped up here, you know, because she's going to be going back home where I hope they do have a base for her. I'm sure that they do. But I'm going to go ahead and get her other plates back on. For this little dog tag looking plate, there's a screw that has a tiny shoulder on it. Okay, that's the one for there. And I did polish this plate, but when you look at it, it does have some blemishes, and that is just age, you know. Sometimes you do what you can do, and that's about it. If I buff her up too aggressively, sometimes if there is still plating on, that comes off. And personally, I am not sending these out to be replated. I know there are people who have access to that, and you may have it in your town and everything. I don't here, and that's just not part of what I'm doing at this point. You never know, things change. But for right now, I'm not sending them out to be replated. But if I ever do a machine for you and you want them replated, find a source, send them away. It'll be great. Okay, so that one is on, and it's going to be the same circumstance with the front plate. Okay, it is what it is. I can buff it up as much as I can, but where there was damage before, you're going to see some of that. And she is, you know, well over 100 years old, getting closer to like the 150-ish phase in her life. So having a couple little blemishes is not, you know, unheard of. And honestly, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. But that's my discussion on that. So let me go ahead and get her faceplate screwed back on. There's a screw up here, one back here, and then the back plate. I have that tape around her, so I might hold off putting the back plate on for a minute. I did tap her spool pin back in, so that is in place. I do need to put the bobbin winder back together, and that's going to go down here, and I need to put the belt guard back on. I need to get this tension unit put back together. I completely forgot about it. So let's see here, pull this magnet out. Okay. All right, the first thing I need to do is get this screwed in. Now they sent a new spring, but honestly, the old one is in good shape. And I actually think the old one is a little bit stronger metal. So if it's okay, I'm putting the original one back on. I think it's just a better spring. This looks like a much lighter weight aluminum kind of spring. So that's what I'm gonna do. So up here in the front, in this hole here, I'm gonna put the spring on so that that little hooky part is straight down. Kind of hold it that way for a bit. And this is going to screw in. That music keeps getting louder and louder. Hang on a second. That's pretty good. So, now this little piece here, It's got a little nub sticking out and a slot here for a screw to go in. I'm going to slide that over everything here. There's a hole here, and I'm going to put it so that my screw hole is right about in the middle of all of that whole little slide. And this little nub is sticking out, you know, about to 9 o'clock-ish, straight out the side there. Okay, so it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to lift this spring up. You can see. So it's resting just on top of that little nub there. Okay. Okay, hang on one sec. I've got this little piece. This is how you release the tension. It's got this little arm that sticks out into the hole in the casting right there. Okay. One tension disc curving out, one tension disc curving down, and a beehive spring. And when I got this machine, it was splayed out just a bit at the end here. I'm actually gonna try to squeeze it back together just a hair. Makes it difficult to get the nut threaded, so give me a second to play with it, but this nut goes on last. You know what? I think I got that wrong. I'm going to unscrew this again and put that tension release on the outside of the tension discs. I think that that will be much better, so just ignore me while I do things a couple times. They're all very different. And actually, I ran over, because it didn't look right to me, and I ran over and looked at another similar machine I have over there, and theirs was put together way wrong. And so, just because you find another machine that has, you know, a similar thing, doesn't mean that someone else might have screwed around with it first. So, just throwing that out. Okay. Okay, so now when I push this, it's going to open up those tension discs. We'll give it a shot. We will give it a shot. I looked at an old manual, and they didn't have a real good close-up image of this, so we're hoping for the best right now. She is going to need a new needle, and so I'm going to go ahead and do all of that. I want to see if she's going to sew well before I get her all closed up. So first of all, let's see if her little clean and polished up bobbin case is going to fit in here well. Yeah, seems to be good. Okay, well that's good. Oh, you know what? I need to, her bobbin is empty, so before I can test her out, I need to wind a bobbin. So let me get her moved back, get her bobbin winder parts out, and we'll get that put together. Okay, so here's my bobbin winder. I am going to get started attaching the little heart-shaped cam back on here. Now, I want to show you something. On this machine, if you can see, this heart cam, it has like an oblong slot, and the one on the bottom is round. This is an adjustment point here, okay? So what I'm going to do is get it started. Don't know why it's giving me issues here. Come on. Okay. Sheesh. Some days, I tell you, some days. Okay. All right. So there you go. I'm not cinching it all the way in. So since this can kind of move in and out like that, you want to make sure that this next hole is centered really, really well. And it needs to be centered so that this can go through it. Now, I need to clean this screw again. I don't know how I missed that, yucky. But if you can see, it's not centered here. It's an eccentric bolt, so there's more of a little flat part here, and there's nothing over there. That's another adjustment point. Let me get this yuck cleaned off, and I'll be right back. Okay, all cleaned up. And I'm just going to stick this in there for now. Just set that aside here. And this spring has a little curve on this side and a straight part over here. Be still, okay? I'm sticking the straight part in this hole. It only has one hole where it can go, so there you go. It's in there, okay? And this was actually super, super filthy. It's clean, but I'm going to try to polish it up one more time. Okay. So now I'm going to set this over this hole here, okay? And see how that little loop of the spring is over the top. I want that. I'm just going to hold it like this and get my slightly shouldered screw and get that screwed in like that. Okay. So I'm just going to get it started first. And while it's started but a little bit loose, I'm going to throw a drop of oil there, so where the casting is rubbing up against this piece of metal, everything is good. Okay, and get it cinched in. All right, so now that spring's going to want to throw this arm that way. That's what I want. Now, over this flat part here, I'm going to put this little spring in. And then this goes all the way through it. I need to get this screw to cinch in there, and now it does, okay? See, it's coming out the back right here. I don't know why I'm not focusing, okay? And I have a little square nut. It's gonna go on here and hold it in place. Now, before I actually cinch it in, I need to make sure that this can turn freely, okay? And it looks like it, well, no, it's a little bit bindy right there. So let me rotate this screw a bit, which is going to change the position, and then keep on turning it, okay? I'm going to go ahead and cinch that nut in a little bit right here, just so that this screw will stay in that same position while I go ahead and turn it all the way around. I think we're good, and you want to make sure that this follower is lining up. Stop focusing over there and snapping right up against there, okay? I'm going to get a wrench, turn it without turning the screw on the front. Okay. All right, so let me just double check, make sure this is good all the way around, and then we'll get it attached. Now I need to mention something. The owner sent a new little bobbin tire for it. This does not actually operate with a tire. This is a treadle machine. It's going to go into a treadle base. This is going to line up with the wheel, the belt that comes off the treadle, and that is what is going to engage with this. Even if I put a tire on there, there's nothing for it to bump up against. So no tire going on here. Hang on a sec, I need to get organized here because this is the little bracket Okay, and here is the bolt that's going to go through. I want to put some oil in these little threads here because that is just cast iron. Make sure this is going to go through well, and then get it situated on here. Sometimes after I thickly paint something, I have to actually remove some of the paint on the sides of here, is what it is, but we'll see what it looks like. Okay, I got it on there. Had to remove just a bit of paint from the sides of that bracket, but is what it is. This screw is going to come in from in front of the machine that way. So, let me see here. I can do it this way. It just pushes through this side. Please just push through for me. And then threads through the other side. Get a skinny little screwdriver here. Okay, there we go. So when the treadle belt is going to engage it, you can bend this front to back depending on where the belt is. I'm actually going to need to put this over onto my universal treadle base to see if she works. So give me a second. I have to get the cat bed off of there and I'll be right back. All right, I want to show you. I have her threaded up here for winding a bobbin. Across that hook, back down, through the little fork there, through that fork. And I have it tipped forward to engage the belt. It really depends on your own particular treadle machine, if going forward or backward works better for you. You know, you can figure it out. I just wanted to show you, she's filling the bobbin well. The only thing is, she seems to be slightly heavy to this side and slightly lighter on this side. Okay, I did get it adjusted, but unfortunately while I was doing it, my thread got a bit dirty. So to the owner of this, use this bobbin just as a tester. But if you're doing white sewing on a white piece of fabric, it's going to get dirty. You know, you get in there. Who knows? Maybe I'll just use up this bobbin. Anyway, this is going to go into the bobbin case, wrapping around across the front like that. Slide it in, bring the thread down that slot, and back up the top till it snaps beyond this little finger into that space, so that when you pull the thread, hopefully you can see the bobbin is turning. Okay, let me re-engage this. Okay, and I'm bringing this piece all the way to the front. This flat part goes against the curve here. Pop it in. All right, I need to go get a new needle to put in here so I can try to sew. So the flat part of the needle is going to go against the shaft. Okay. And you push it up as high as it can go. Turn it and make sure it's lined up. Are you lined up? You are, but okay. Yeah, you're good. Okay, so I'm going to use purple thread on top so I can see the difference. I go through up here, okay, back down, through in the middle of both of my tension discs, and up in this little spring that's here, okay, pushing this to release tension. Then I'm going to go through this eyelet up here. I should be able to just pull it through that over here on this side. There's a little eyelet, you just pop it through. Come down here. I hooked it in that little thread guide. Give myself more thread. And you're going to thread the needle from the outside in like that. So no plates on here. My first thing is just I want to see if it's going to pick up that thread. And it did. It did very easily. So that's great. Let me go ahead and put the slide plates in and give it a test sew. While I'm playing with it, you know, I've taken everything apart, so I need to adjust the tension. To tighten the tension on the bobbin case, there's a little screw right there on that shuttle, and I'm just gonna increase that about 1/3 of a turn just to see if that will do it. If it doesn't, then I can do it some more. Well, that looks great. Okay, I'm going to play with the stitch length and everything here, but you can see threads coming all over on this. Well, it looks like my upper thread tension might be a bit tight because she is puckering just a hair. Let me play with it, see what I can come up with. A good way to... Ooh, that was noisy. See if your tension is pretty close, but you want to, you know, make it even better. I do a diagonal stitch. Okay, and I can feel with my fingers which one is tighter, but just to show you, if you do that, okay, so you're on the bias here, and then you pull it, the one that pops first is the tighter one. So if you can see, the upper popped, the lower did not. My upper thread is tighter than my lower. So that either means if this is screwed in really high, well then back it off some, okay? But that might mean that your lower thread is just too loose too. So I'm backing that off a bit and tightening it a bit down here, and just keep playing with it that way until it's set right. All right, I think I've just about got it. So I'm just gonna sew with her for a while, try to make sure everything gets broken in well. Once I'm confident with that, then I'll, you know, I gotta put her back plate still on, get her all cleaned up and ready for her glamour shot. So thank you so much for sticking with me through this beautiful little VS2. I hope her owner is going to be very happy with her when she gets her back home. And I will see you on my next project. Bye-bye.
I found an antique sewing machine, forgotten and alone. I touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood, where simple living's valued, she'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.